Hello and welcome Titans and families to Back to School Night 2020. I'm Mrs. Ohmert. I teach chemistry and I love teaching at CCECHS because of our amazing students. A little bit about my educational background. I have my Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from the University of Witwatersrand that is located in Johannesburg, South Africa, because that's where I grew up. Once I moved here, I got my teaching credential in chemistry at Cal State Fullerton, and I am currently enrolled in a master's in education at Cal State Northridge. Some of my experience in teaching was in physical science and chemistry at Westminster High School in Orange County. I also taught for the last 2 years 8th grade integrated science at Lakeview Charter Academy, which is why I might seem familiar to some of the families. And this year I've started teaching chemistry at Community Charter Early College High School, and I'm really enjoying it so far and look forward to having an awesome year to continue. A little bit about some of my hobbies and interests. I enjoy puzzles, I like to be active, so I enjoy roller skating, hiking, and running. I also like to cook and bake. And when it's safe, I enjoy traveling. And lastly, since I'm from South Africa, I am learning Spanish and working on my Spanish. So why did I choose to become a teacher? There are 2 quotes that really sum up why. And one is from Nelson Mandela, and that is, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And so in order for us as a society and a community to make the world the way we want it to be, I believe that we need a strong education in order to identify problems and solutions to problems, as well as to make things that are working even better. The second quote is by Rosalind Franklin, and that is, science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. My experience in science has shown me that some students, some people, some teachers even, they find science to be very much out there. And a lot of the time they don't see how it connects to their everyday experiences. So for me, my goal as a teacher is to not only teach the content, but also to teach how it is relevant to our everyday lives. And that gets me to our course objective. So our objective is that students use chemistry to explain everyday phenomena or things that we experience every day. In order to do that, they're going to work on developing certain science skills, such as analyzing and interpreting data, carrying out and planning investigations, such as labs. We'll be doing quite a few online ones. They're going to be constructing explanations, developing and using models, and in chemistry there is quite a lot of mathematical thinking, and so they'll be using that as well. They're going to use these science skills in order to explain the content that they learn, and at the core of chemistry there are 2 ideas, matter and energy. So we're going to be looking at the composition, properties, and changes and interactions of matter, and how energy changes during those interactions. So these are the units that we're going to study. We're currently still in Unit 1, learning about matter and density. Then we're going to move into Unit 2, patterns in the periodic table. From there, we're going to look at isotopes and nuclear chemistry. We're going to look at how those atoms in the periodic table are going to bond to create different molecules. We're going to look at how those different types of chemicals react and how that relates to pollution. Thermodynamics has to do with energy changes. And then towards the end of the year, we're going to look at how chemistry can explain climate change and other environmental issues. For this course, I highly recommend students have a notebook because it will really help them in order to stay focused, as well as to stay on top of going between tabs. They'll need a laptop, of course, because we're doing online learning. I highly recommend headphones because it helps to prevent distractions from things that might be going on around us. Something that I'm using in this class to help students stay organized are to-do lists. Here's an example of a to-do list we've used this week. So here you'll see that I list all the activities that we're doing within the lesson, some directions. There's also links. And this is to help students stay organized during class, as well as if you're absent, whether it be because you're having internet issues or for another reason, you can look back at the to-do list from that lesson and say, okay, this is what we did, this is what I need to complete, this is what I need to catch up. My student expectations, I really would like students to come online camera ready, because it really helps me as a teacher be my best self if I can see their faces. It tells me if I'm going too fast, too slow. I can usually tell if students understand or don't understand based on their faces and their, body movements. So I would really encourage students to make sure when they're getting ready in the morning, be camera ready. Make sure that when you arrive to class on time, that you're actually starting to come on a little early, because if you're having a problem signing in, if there's an issue with the link, you have a little bit of time to problem solve and troubleshoot any issues. It's important to demonstrate consistent, tightened virtual learning etiquette. And what I mean by that is I really break it down to 3 things. It's really easy when we're working by ourselves, or maybe there's family around us, but mostly by ourselves, to forget that there are other people working with us in this virtual classroom. So just remember to be respectful, and that we're here to create a learning community, even though it's not in a classroom, it's in an online classroom. And if you're doing that and you're being consistently respectful of each other, of your own learning, then you're going to do well. I also want students to always remember to have a growth mindset. That means it's okay to make mistakes, because we're all learning and growing, especially with virtual learning. This is new for all of us. And so it's really important to, just have that growth mindset. Lastly, it's super important to reach out if you need help. The one biggest challenge of being online is you can't just come in during lunch and say, Miss, I didn't understand this. Or like, hey, can I check in with you 5 minutes before I go home at the end of the day? It's a lot harder to find those times. So it's really important to communicate during class if you need help, and then to come to support sessions like office hours so that you do not fall behind. The grading policy at PUC CCECHS is as follows. Just a little idea behind the different areas. Participation, that's got to do with students sharing out during class and engaging in the learning by doing polls, as well as students completing all the different learning activities within a session. Process has to do with, usually we'll do this when there's a project. So the student will do a bigger project, it will take them some time to complete, and then they will get it graded, returned to them, and they will read through their project, reflect on any mistakes, reflect on any grammar errors, fix it up, and then they will get not only an increased grade on the project, but they'll also get a process grade for working on improving their project. Projects are a little bit of a higher percentage of 25%. They're also graded out of 100 points, because they're usually what we're going to do towards the end of the unit. And that's something that's going to help them, is that it's going to demonstrate that they understand the learning from the unit. Formative assessments are things like weekly assignments that I do to check that they are understanding the content standards and they're gaining the skills that they need. And lastly, exams, they're a little bit less, they're only 10%, and they'll be open book. They aren't going to be rote learning, they're going to be about applying the information that we've been learning. There'll be one in the middle of the semester and one at the end of the semester. So if you need to contact me, here's some contact information. You can email me at a.ohmert@pucschools.org. You can also, I've created a parent remind code. So at CCECHSC, if you have the Remind app, or you can text 81010 in order to get announcements. Then for students, if they need help, I'm available Mondays and Wednesdays from 1:30 to 2:30. And I will also have additional office hours on request if that time doesn't work for students. For students, most of my class announcements are through Schoology. I'll send emails out to the students, and then also through Remind, I'll send announcements through that too. This is our weekly schedule. So I usually see students twice a week, and then on either Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Thursday. Friday, the intervention schedule, there is science intervention scheduled. That is independent learning time. It is mandatory for every student, but they won't be meeting in person in class, but they do have a task they need to complete on Fridays. This coming Friday, we have a pupil-free day, so they don't have to do that, but in the future, Fridays are mandatory. All right, make sure to stay connected. Make sure you're using PowerSchool, Instagram, and the website. If you have any questions about what's going on, I follow the Instagram. It's really useful for me too. And thank you so much for joining me and touring my virtual classroom. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to email me or add yourself on Remind so that you can send me messages and get announcements. Stay safe out there, everyone.